Okay, so let's look at what we are going to do. So first of all, um, let's look at the format. The format says congratulations Class Book. So it is going to be in this particular text box, and we gave a name for this particular text box. We gave it a name of display um, text box. I remember something like that. So let's confirm. So I type display. Let's confirm from the design. So I click on the design and I select this. So I give it a name of display text box. So I go back to the, so I type display text box. So let me show you something about this. If you want something to appear inside this text box, what do? We change the text property of this particular text box. So if I come to the text property and type, let's say, Same, and press enter, you see that the word Same appears inside. So it means that if we want a text to appear in this particular text box, it is the text property of this text box that we are going to change. So I'll clear this from here and come back to the code. So that display text box, which is that particular text box, dot the text property. So the text property of the display text box is going to be, we are going to assign a value to the text property of that display text box. So what value are we going to assign to it? Let's come to the picture. The first thing is the congratulations word. So I bring this. So because it is a string, I put it inside the quotation. So congratulations. And then the question says we should concatenate it with the name of the customer, but there should be a space between the congratulations and the name of the customer. So we have to first concatenate it with a space. So I type the exclamation sign and give a space between the two exclamation signs. So if you need just one space, you can just press the space bar once. If you need two spaces, so you can just press it twice. So we are concatenating this also to the name of the customer. So when I go to the design, the name of the customer will be entered in this particular text box. So what is the name of this particular text box? When I check here, I give it customer name text box. That is the name I gave to this particular text box. So I come back to the code and add customer name text box. Now the same way, if I come to the design, if I want a value here, I'll change the text property. So if I make it Same, you see that the word Same comes here. So if I want to pass the value over here to this, it means that I have to pass the text value of this text box to this particular text box. So the text value of this text box is passed down here. So let me clean this one. Come back to the code. So the customer names text box dot the text property. So it is the text property that we are putting here, whatever the user types over there. So I have to concatenate it again with the exclamation sign, since there was an exclamation sign over there. And then when I look at the picture, after the exclamation sign, the next thing is on a new line. So since it is on a new line, there is something that I have to do to make sure that the next part comes a new line. So I have to concatenate this with a special control called control dot character or char. Then dot new line. Sorry, I made a mistake. There's no supposed to be so control character dot new line. So this makes sure that the next part goes onto a new line. So I have to concatenate this again. Press enter. The enter is not necessary, but just that I want it to look nice. So what is the next part of the message? The next part of the message is the phrase discount repair parts for your selected. That's the next part of the message. So I have to bring exclamation sign and put the phrase discount repair parts for your selected So the next part also comes on a new line, so I have to concatenate it with control character dot new line. So the next part, which is GMC commercial track, is the information that will be found here. So it means that we are passing the text property value for this particular text box to this particular text box. We are concatenating it to the message. So the text property of this text box is concatenated to the message too. So the next part is to concatenate the vehicle info. So that is the name I gave to that particular text box. So vehicle info text box, its text property is concatenated to it, and we are also concatenating it to, let me look at the phrase are available by contacting us at this particular number. So we are concatenating it to this too, but there is a space between it, so we have to apply the space first. So I bring exclamation, bring a space between, and concatenate it to another phrase. Are available by contacting us at 800 555 1925. So this is the instruction for the display message to display this particular congratulations message. Okay. So we go back to the next instruction. So the next instruction is in relation to the reset button. So it says we should write coding statements to accomplish the following tasks when the application user clicks the reset button. So we go back. So when he clicks the reset button, you should clear all input and output text box and masked text box controls except the vehicle info text box control. So apart from the vehicle info text box control, all other text boxes should be cleared. So we go back to our code. So it means that this text box should be cleared. You should always remember the name of the text box. So this customer name text box should be cleared. Address text box should be cleared. City should be cleared. State should be cleared. Zip mask should be cleared. The display text box should also be cleared, but this one should remain. So the vehicle info text box should not be cleared when the reset button is clicked. So let's implement the code. So when it is clicked, the customer information, customer name text box, its text property should be an empty string. So this is one way we can clear it, by giving it an empty string. I'm going to implement 3 ways. You can choose whichever that you want. You can also decide to apply them, all of them, to different sections. So the address text box should also be cleared. So this one, we are not referencing the text property of the address text box. We are saying that the text box itself should be cleared, and we have to add this to it to show that it is a method. Okay, so the address text box should be cleared. So we are not referencing the text property of the address text box. We are just referencing the text box itself, and we are saying that the text box should be cleared. So you can also use this one too. Another one you can also use is this. Okay, so we are referencing the city text box, and we are saying the text property of that city text box should be assigned a string. It should be assigned a string, but the string should be an empty string. So the text property of the city text box is going to be assigned a string, but that string is also an empty string. So these are the 3 different ways you can use to clear a particular. Okay, so the other thing is the state text box. So the state text box should also be cleared, but I like using the method rather than the others. So the zip masked text box should also be cleared. And then the display text box should also be cleared. So let's go back to, it says all input and output mask text box should be cleared except the vehicle info text box. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cleared. Let's check if they are 6. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Okay, so let's move on to the next instruction. The next instruction says that when the reset button is clicked, the gray radio button should be checked. So in case the programmer or in case the user uh, changes, so in case the program is run, okay, so let me run the program. Okay, so in case the program is run and then the user changes, let's say this one to yellow, and then the reset button is clicked, the question says that you should move from the yellow to back to the gray. So that is that part of the question. So it says that the check, you should check the gray radio button when the reset button is clicked. So another code for the reset button is to make sure that the gray radio button is checked property is set back to true. So if the user changes it, it is set to false. So the moment that the reset button is clicked, the gray radio button should be the checked property of the gray radio button should be true. So let's move on to the next instruction. The next instruction says that you should check the auto radio button. This occurs whatever. So we should also make sure that the auto radio button is checked when the reset button is also clicked. So the same way, the auto radio button is checked property is also set to true. And let's look at the next instruction. The next instruction also says that the visible invisible checkbox should also be checked. So the visible invisible checkbox, you are changing its checked property to true when the button is clicked. So let's run it and see if it takes effect. So if we change this and and we click on the reset, it moves back to auto, it moves back to gray, and then this one becomes checked again. So we are done with that. So the last thing is to set the focus to the customer name text box. So you should set the focus to the customer name text box. Let me demonstrate it and see. So if for now the focus is on the customer name text box, if I change it to, let's say, the city text box, change this one and click on the reset, you see that it didn't move, the focus didn't move back to the customer name text box. So the question says you should make sure that when the reset button is clicked, the focus moves to the customer name text box. So let's implement that too. So the customer name text box, and then its property. So we should apply the focus method on the customer name text box. So let's run it and see. So if you change this, and click on the reset button, you see that it moves here, and then the focus comes back to the customer name text box. Okay, so that part is also done. And then we are supposed to write a code for the print button, write a code for the exit button too. I'll leave the print button now and deal with the exit button. So come back to the code, come back to my design, double click on the exit button, and the exit button is going to close the form itself, and we refer to the form itself using me. So what are we doing to the form? We are closing the form. So me dot what? Close. It is also a method, so we add the brackets. So the form itself is closed when the exit button is also clicked. So let's run it and see. So if I click on the exit button, the form is closed. Let me run it again. Now, if you remember, we mapped the escape button to the reset. So let's try it and see if it works. So I'll change it to this, I'll change this, I'll change that, and I'll do this and press the escape button and see if it is mapped to the reset button. So I press the escape and surely it is mapped to the reset button. So it moved, and then the focus was set to this text box. So the next part is the checkbox coding. So when the visible or invisible checkbox control is unchecked, the vehicle info label, vehicle info text box, the congratulations text box control should become invisible. So when it is unchecked, the visibility of the vehicle info label, the text box itself, and then the congratulations message, and the congratulations message should be set to false. So when it is checked, all of them should be visible, but when it is unchecked, all of them should move away. But this control should be checked when the application starts up. So because it is checked when the application starts up, it means all of them will be visible. The moment you click on it and it is not checked, all of them becomes invisible. Okay, so let's go back to the code. Come back to the so this is the visible, invisible. So we are making sure that the visibility of the three becomes so the question says if something, if it is unchecked, that is when it will go off. And if it is checked, that is when it will be on. So if the visible, invisible checkbox dot checked, so if you leave it this way, it means that if it is checked, if that checkbox is checked, then what do we do? If it is checked, all of them, their visibility will become true. So the vehicle info text box, the visibility or the visible property will become true. Now let me go back to the design. It seems I didn't name the label. So let me click on this, change the name of the label. So vehicle info label. So I'll come back to my code. So the vehicle info label, the visible property will also be true. And then the display text box, the visible property will also be true. Else, so if it is unchecked, then the vehicle, so let me copy all of them here. I'll copy, Control C, come here, Control V for paste. What I'll do is their visibility will become false. So this will become false. This will become false. And this will also become false. So let's try it and see. So it is checked when the program starts. So this one shows, this one shows, this one also shows. The moment I uncheck it, all of them is now invisible. If I click on reset, it becomes checked again. So that one is also working. We are done with the checkbox. The next one is the radio button coding. So the vehicle type. So as explained earlier, display the appropriate vehicle information to the vehicle info text box and the appropriate picture box image depending on the radio button that is checked. So we are moving on to the vehicle type radio button. So I'll go back to my code, come to the design. So the question is trying to say that if we click on the track, it should display a message here, and then the picture should change to the track. If you click on the commercial, there's the information that should be displayed here, and then this one should also change. So when you look at the picture, you see that when commercial was selected, the info that was over here was GMC commercial track, and this picture is showing. So I'll make sure that when I select commercial, the message that shows here is GMC commercial track, and then the picture shows here. So let me move the 3. So this is the GMC commercial track that I choose, the picture that I chose. And then I've given it a name of commercial picture box. So I'll double click on the commercial. So the code that I'm going to give it, it says that when I click on that one, an information should be displayed in this particular text box. So this text box is called the vehicle info text box. So I'll come back to this one. So when I click on it, the vehicle info text box, its text property should be assigned a value. What value is that? GMC commercial track. Let's run it and see. So when I click on this, you see that the GMC commercial track is shown inside this particular text box. So we are passing that value to this text box if this one is clicked. Let's go back to, it says that the display we should display the appropriate vehicle information to the vehicle info text box and the appropriate picture box image depending on the radio button that is clicked. So we have to do the picture box too. So when that is clicked, let me come back to the design, double click on the commercial. So when it is clicked, the commercial picture box, its visibility should be set to true. So that is the only thing that should show if the commercial is selected. The other ones, which is auto picture box, the visibility of its visible property should be set to false. And the track picture box should also have its visible property set to false. So let's run it and see. So when I select this, you see that the other two went away and only this one was left. And then the information also appeared in this. When I click on the display, you see that the display message also comes here, but because I didn't enter anything inside the name, it didn't concatenate anything to the name. So if I come back here again and type Samuel and hit the display button again, it concatenates Samuel to the congratulations, and then the other part also shows. Okay, so I exit. Okay, so we have done that for the commercial radio button. You have to do it for the auto and then the track as well. But let's look at something from the question. When you look at the picture, the picture only has information for the commercial. So what are we going to use for the auto? So upon reading the lab, I found an information for the auto, but not for the track. So it's found somewhere here. Let's see. Okay, so this is it. So it says that forms starts as centered, the visible is checked, the picture box control for the auto displays on startup. Information for the Ford Escort sedan displays in the vehicle info read only box. Because the picture box, because the radio button that was selected upon startup is auto, and this is the information that the question says it should display, then it means that this is the info related to that particular auto radio button. So I have Ford Escort sedan. So that is what I'm going to use for the auto radio button. So I'll copy it, come back to my code, and come back to the design, double click on the auto. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to copy this and paste it over here and change the information over here to Ford Escort sedan. Let's run it and see. So for before we run it, when the auto is selected, the commercial picture box should be set to false. But the auto picture box should only be the one set to true. So if I run it now, see that upon the start of the program, the auto is selected. That is why it is showing the Ford Escort sedan here, and then the picture that is showing is the Ford Escort sedan. This is not the Ford Escort sedan, but I'll download a picture of the Ford Escort sedan and place it here. Okay, so if I change it to commercial, the information comes and then the picture changes. If I change it to auto, the information comes and then the picture changes. Apply the same thing to the track. Copy this, paste it here. So what I'll do is, because I downloaded a picture of a tipper track, I'll give an information of a tipper track. The auto is also set to false, and the track picture is set to true. So now I can come to my design and place the pictures on top of one another. Okay, so I can now run my program. So the auto is selected, that's why this is showing, and this information is here. I select the track, it changes to a tipper track, the information shows here. I select this one, it changes to commercial, and then the picture changes. If I click on reset, it moves back to the auto. This comes and then this changes. Okay, so that part of the question is also done. Let's go back. So we are done with this part too. The next one is the coding for the color. So it says that when one of the radio buttons is checked, change the form's background color. Write additional code using the form's load event and a module level variable to enable restoration of the gray background color. So if you are restoring it to a gray background color, you are not going to just assign or type back dots color dot gray. You are not going to specify a gray color to I'll implement it and we see what I'm trying to say. Okay, but the other colors you change it as the way we normally do, but the question is you should add additional code using the forms load event and the module level variable to enable the restoration of the color back to gray. So let's tackle the other part before we come to the gray part. So I'll come back to my code. Click on yellow. And we are setting the forms, the back color of the forms itself to a color dot yellow. So that is for the yellow. Come to green. The same thing, me dot back color. We are assigning it to a green color. Come to blue. A dot back color. we are assigning it to a color blue. Let's run it and see. If I click on yellow, it changes to yellow. Click on green, it changes to green. Click on blue, the back color changes to blue. Okay. So we are now going to tackle the gray color. Okay, so to tackle the gray color, let's explain some concept. You see that when I run this program and then the program loads with a gray color. So what we are going to do is that we are going to assign the color of the background when the program loads to a variable. That is what we are going to do. So when the program loads, it loads with a back color of gray. So we are going to assign that particular back color to a variable when the program loads or when the forms loads. So this is what we are going to do now. So I'll double click on this, on the forms. I'll double click on the forms and it gives me the load, the form load sub event. So what did I say? We are going to assign the back color of the forms to a particular variable when the program loads. So we are going to call that particular variable original color. So original color is equal to the forms itself. So the background color of the form itself, the back color of the form itself. So the back color of the form itself is assigned to a variable called original color. But this variable has not been declared yet. That is why it is showing this. And the question says that we should declare that particular variable. Where is it? It says when one of the changed whatever, write additional code using the forms load event and a model level variable. So that variable should be a model level variable. So it means that I have to declare this particular variable as a model level variable, meaning I have to go to the top of the program and then declare that particular variable over here. So I give it a private original color, and then we are giving it, this is a color. So that variable is a color, so that is why we are giving it a color, a data type as color. We are not giving it a string or whatever. So original color is a color, that is why we are giving it that. So we have declared the variable as a model level variable and we have assigned it a color over here. That particular color is the background color of the forms when it loads. That is the color we are assigning to that particular variable. So now we can now see that when the gray color is clicked, so I can come to the forms, double click on the gray. You can now see that when the gray color is clicked, the back color for the forms should be the variable that we created, which is original color. So the original color variable that we created, that we assigned the back color when the form loaded to, is now referenced over here. So let's try it and see. Let's run the program. and I change the color to green, change to yellow, and I click on the gray, it changes back to the gray color. Blue, click on the gray, change back to the gray color. So we are done with that part too. So the last part says that we should add remarks to the top of the program that gives the program name, to bracket the class name, the programmer name, which is you, and date programmed. So we should give the class name, your name, and then the date that you wrote the program. You should add it as a remark to the top of the program. So let's go back to our program, come to the top of the code, put our cursor before the public, press enter to move it down, come here. So we are applying a comment here. So we apply a comment with a single quote. So so class, so name is Apentine Johnson. Another comment with the class DIT2, and the last one is the date programmed. So date programmed is, let's say today's date is 8/04/2026. So that part is also done. You are also allowed to add remarks to each sub procedure as appropriate. So each sub procedure, so these are the sub procedures. This is one sub procedure, this is another sub procedure, this is another sub procedure. So the individual sub procedures, we should make sure that we give comments to them. So on top of the sub procedure, so for example, I can press enter, put a single quote. So what is this sub procedure doing? It is displaying, so it displays customer information, or it displays congratulations message. So you make sure that you do these comments for each of the sub procedures, telling the program or the programmer what it actually does. So that is the sub procedures.